Climate data. Now countries are setting up their own satellites, and there are a lot of information that those satellites are giving back to the government, and that government is sharing with others. Some of those information can be purchased by the government, by the business houses if they need. Personal devices, scientific data, and then proliferation of online services. So this all we know. We know about social media, but then there is a, you know, users, every user who has a camera or a mobile phone is clicking 5,000 pictures on an average in a year. 5,000 pictures in an average. Compare this with the Kodak days when you used to click maybe 100 pictures. That too, if you have 4 rolls of camera. So that's the increase. Videos, online applications, and storage and computation has become cheaper. Now this is where cloud fits in. And cloud plays a very big role on how storage and computation has become cheaper. Now 3 V's, volume. The humanity from the beginning till 2002 generated 5 exabyte of data. How many of you can tell how many zeros are there in exabyte? You have heard about gigabyte. Okay, let's start with megabyte. Exabyte has 18 zeros. So just to give you a sense of the volume, the humanity from the beginning till 2002 generated 5 exabytes. So if you see a DVD can store one movie. It's about 1 gig to 1.4 gig size. Now, if you store the DVD, if you store all these data in DVDs, you go to Chinnaswamy Stadium, you cover the floor, entire floor with DVDs, and you stack up the DVDs till the roof of Chinnaswamy Stadium. That's the size of 5 exabytes of data. And the whole of humanity had generated that much data by 2002. In 2011, the same size of data was generated in 2 days. In 2011. So what humanity generated from the beginning till 2002, in 2011 it was generated in 2 days. Now, we are in 2014, 3 years hence. The time that I will take to walk from here in the back of this hall is the time that the same amount of data will get generated. Now, not all of these data will be used by businesses, but then these data are generated. And from where are these generated? From these, which I just mentioned. And the velocity, the speed with which it is coming, what humanity took, years to reach, now it's coming in 2 days, now in minutes. The speed with which it is coming, and the varieties. I mentioned, there are sensor data, GPS data, pictures, audio, video, all form of data. In addition to that, the machine generated data, the application generated data, log data. You have huge amount of data now. So this is what is popularly called the 3V. But then, not all data is useful. So the concept called 4th V, which is called whether this data is valuable for me. Not all data is valuable. There's a lot of junk data around. In fact, 60 to 70% of junk data is not useful for you or for the business or for government, for any organization. So let's see what happened. What triggered this? Analytics was ready to do image processing, signal processing. I am an electronics engineer. I used to understand digital signal processing. I used to have topics on image processing. So those were ready. But there was an inherent problem in the way programming was done. How many of you are aware of pointers and data structures? Excellent. In Delhi, I just saw one hand and I was saying, okay, so I have to explain pointers and data structures. No. Now, why was pointers and data structures needed? The reason was, just for example, say that you have to write a program where you have to sort a file in alphabetical order. And if in BASIC, it will take about 100 lines of code. In C, maybe 50 lines of code. In C++, maybe you can use an object and get it done in 5 lines of code. Simple. So it works, it is simple. If you have, maybe 64 MB, 100 MB of files, it is fine. But suppose the file size is 1 terabyte. Same file size. So what we'll do? So as a programmer, we are very good in writing algorithms. Now, but then we had to, because the RAM capacity is limited. So if we can have the entire 1 terabyte on RAM, we can just run that program and it will give you the result. But then you cannot do that. RAM capacity is limited. So what we were doing was, we were taking a part of data, storing it on RAM, sorting it, storing it in a temporary file, and then reading the next set of data. Isn't this what we are doing? And we were taking use of pointers, where we were storing it in a pointer as a buffer. This is what we were doing. So what was really happening was, the data was coming to the program, and when the data size was increasing, the program, this architecture, it had a flaw, because we are talking about 1 terabyte and we are talking about exabyte and we are talking about zettabytes now. So that's when Google, who had this problem, Google was in a business where they had to monetize a keyword. Like for example, if I have to do Google ad for this event, so what I have to do is www.cloudandmobility.org. I have to put the URL on Google Analytics. Google will say that what kind of keywords will make people to land on our homepage. Okay, this is what we want. We want people who are interested in cloud to know that there is an event happening. So Google will say that for cloud, per click, I have to pay 250 rupees. For cloud conference, 50 rupees. Cloud technology, 120 rupees. And it also says, geography-wise, how many users how many users are there. So it gives me an access. And this was their only way to monetize. So, and at that time, in 2003, every minute you had 100,000 queries that were done on Google across the globe. In 2011, it went up to 800,000, and right now it is, in millions of searches being done per minute. So they knew that that's the kind of data that is coming. For them, it was still a structured data. It was still a text data. It was not, data did not have variety. But what they did was, they came up with a Google file system called, and then they made it open source, and they came up with a MapReduce. And they also made it public. Yahoo took the MapReduce. Map is a Java function, reduce is a Java function. I'm just explaining a moment how they try to address this problem. And then Yahoo came up with their file system, Hadoop file system plus MapReduce, which Google had made it public, and they made it open source. And this happened in 2006. Now, I give you an example of how the file was getting sorted. Now, let's see how this new paradigm shift that has happened, how they will do. So this is how it will happen. So just for the simplicity, I have taken a file of small size, but it can be terabytes or even exabyte. So what Hadoop file system does is, it breaks a file into 64 MB chunks. So this is the file. It can be a file of very large size. I've just taken these chunks of 5 64 MB file size. So each is the same file. So suppose you have to sort this file. So file 1, and these are decommissioned servers. What is decommissioned servers? So for example, IBM servers have an expiry date, and then once after the expiry date, they do not provide support. There is no guarantee on the hardware uptime. Okay, but they say that we have an exchange offer. If you buy a new server, you get 5% discount or 10% discount. So that's the cost of that server. So initially what they did was that they used this decommissioned server and stored files randomly. So HDFS, it breaks incoming files into blocks and stores them redundantly across the cluster. Storing them redundantly was required because the cluster was a decommissioned cluster. There's a chance of hardware failure was high. So they stored it here. So file 1 is in this server, and this server. This is called node. So these are in 3 nodes. Similarly, file 2. So this is what SDFL does. It also has a job scheduler which identifies that in case a node goes down, then all the files, it knows that what all files are there. But it also knows that the same files are there in other nodes as well. And what MapReduce does is that it processes large jobs in parallel across many nodes and combines the result. So it knows that, okay, so the result of sorting the file of file 2, file 1, 4, 5, 6, it will be done parallelly. Each is 64 MB file. It will be done parallelly, and it will be then, so map will do the processing and reduce will get the output and generate it in a final output file. Now, this was the paradigm shift. So earlier, data was coming to the program. Now, program is coming to the data. So same program is running parallelly on this set of data. So which basically meant that the input file can be of any size. You just need to add nodes, and it can be of any size. Now this is where cloud kicks in, because this still have a value. When the cloud came, cloud provides storage at a very reasonable price. So companies can start a project on 3 or 4 decommissioned servers, but when they have to scale up, then they have to find a way how they can get cheap and cheaper storage, and this is where cloud provides. Now, so basically what really happened is you had unstructured data, you had a structured data, and we came up with relational database model, RDBMS, and which had a schema. So it required that the data should be structured, and then you can store it on an RDBMS system. Okay. Now on RDBMS system, you can perform various commands like select, update, create. You can amend the data, you can change the data. But there was a need where you just need to read and write. And the need came from unstructured data. So when the unstructured data came, it did not have there was no way to get a primary key. You cannot index that data. You do not know. You have data coming from various sources. So then it just goes into, there's a detour that happens. So a detour that happens, it goes into a file system. Now Hadoop was initially, now the technology has advanced. Even companies like IBM, Oracle, Microsoft, they have all come up with a system where unstructured data can be stored. And so what happens is, the unstructured data comes there, it gets stored, you just read it, and you read only the data that is valuable to you. Make it semi-structured or as close as structured as possible, and then you store it back on the RDBMS system. Like for example, in the case of Satyamev Jayate, what they did was they extracted all the tweets that was coming. This is not an example of real-time analytics, but it was an example of an unstructured data. So they just dumped all the tweets and Facebook and pages and images and everything. They just dumped it, and they extracted the data. So there was a write, and then there was a read based on certain keywords, and those keywords were identified which would have proved that community is emotionally involved in this. And then there was some structure that got built, and the same keyword went as a primary key, and it was stored in the structured database. As simple as this. Are you guys with me? Okay. So this is where now because cloud provides scalability. It is a pay-per-use model. Today, the data stream is coming for my business. Tomorrow, I realize I may not need that data stream. It's not valuable for me. So why should I go for a cluster? Why should I buy a hardware? Why don't I just go for a cloud, try it for 2 months? If it is valuable, good. Then I'll scale up. I'll add few more things. So the flexibility that cloud provides will go a long way in in solving this problem. And cloud provides flexibility in terms of payment, in terms of scalability, and this is very important because if you have to buy a cluster, you have to raise a purchase order. The vendor will give its own sweet time. It may take about a month to buy a cluster. 1 second, and it may take a month, but in cloud it can happen in a day, and you have a ready infrastructure. Sometimes the cost of that may be a little bit more also. Okay, sometimes, but then there is you have to find out what is more valuable for the business. Is it time to market, or is it the cost of the infrastructure? So sometimes the flexibility provides. So cloud provides flexibility. It provides pay-per-use model from capex to opex. So those who do not understand this term, capex is a capital expenditure. So if you buy a server, you have to put an upfront cost. OPEX is an operational expense, which means as and when you are using, you pay. So from buying your own car, it is about hiring a taxi. And then private, public, and hybrid cloud is. Public cloud is like taking a fully furnished apartment. That's public cloud. I'm just giving an analogy. And private cloud is taking an unfurnished apartment and getting your own furniture. You have control. You want to have a tasteful living area. So you take an unfurnished and you get your own furniture, buy your own furniture, and you do that. That's public. And hybrid is a semi-furnished apartment. I'm just giving an analogy. This is what, and the mindset. Mindset is that earlier you were owning a house. Sometimes owning a house makes a lot of sense. It is also an emotional thing. Okay. But then sometimes renting is economically better. If owning a house is like in Mumbai, people prefer to rent a house and own a house in Bangalore and live on a rented house. Because if emotional part is removed, then there is an economics part, and this is where the struggle is. So in any cloud implementation, there is an emotional part. So what happens to my server? What happens to my ability to control? What happens to my ability to sell? What happens to my ability to share? That's an emotional part. So while the house rates go up, the cost of infrastructure goes down. There's a depreciation that happens to the value. So it makes decision making better. And while for the cluster, the CIO is the decision maker. Okay, they have to sign a check of millions of dollars. That's power, that's control for CIO. For cloud, the bill is sent to finance team on a pay-per-use model. CFO signs it. There's a cultural change that happens in cloud. But then you saw that there is a need. If you have to adopt to the new changes that are happening, you have to go to cloud. And there are various concerns also. You had a question.
But internet services are not cheap. How do we relate?
Right. So the question is that the internet services are not cheap. Correct. Sometimes cost is not the only factor. It is also time to market. How quickly can you get your infrastructure? Talk to any project manager. How much time he keeps in his schedule to get the right infrastructure for his team. Infrastructure is not just office space, but the development infrastructure. So creating the development environment, getting the server access, their mails, that's a change management process basically. They have to request a change and all that. It takes a sweet 15 days if the company is agile, to even 60 days if the company has a lot of controls. So now in a time when business is looking for agility, where they put high cost on agility than the cost on the infrastructure, it becomes redundant. Yes.
What are the security concerns?
Right. So 10 years back when cloud started, that it was considered to be a hype. And Larry Ellison for Oracle said that at that time, 10 years back, that it is a hype. 5 years back, it was realized that it is no longer a hype. but they were security concerns. They were serious concerns. And but the beauty of cloud was that because so many startups were getting attacked, so many companies were putting in the money, they realized that cloud security is an opportunity. If that gets addressed, then, and it's the biggest concern for the companies. So then, few companies are starting deploying their own security framework. You will have a few speakers who will be talking about security later in the day today. Just lost this mic. Yeah, so few companies had this concern, but they have no successful case studies are present, where how they have managed. So for example, security is a mindset. You take an apartment, and then you find that you're on the ground floor, you have doors.